Welcome one and all to a threshold training from our recent, not so recent holiday in California. And in addition to some fun in the sun in a land of milk and honey, I'll take you through the meat and potatoes training that I use to rebuild my threshold fitness, culminating in this final block of training on a super quiet but very beautiful peak in California's Napa Valley. And please accept my sincere apologies for the delay in getting this second video edited and posted. Work, well, it's been more than a bit consuming of late, including on this vacation as it happens. And I'm hoping for normal service on the videos to rebuild over the course of late December and January. Cheers. Well, boy, am I enjoying training on Atlas Peak Road. It's super close to where we're staying, just up the road there. And the lower part has beautiful tarmac and is very quiet indeed. So the perfect place to train. The lower part of the segment is 4.1 kilometers, average gradient 6.5%, but within that, very variable. Anything from 1.5% through north of 10. So it really does disrupt the cadence, and you have to get used to changing the gear a lot, and that makes it a nice addition to the training I've been doing indoors on the Wattbike Pro, where you can have that nice consistent cadence, 88 to 90 RPM. So definitely good training as far as I'm concerned, and a perfect place for the longer efforts. And this morning I completed 1 times 18 minutes at tempo, then 2 times 15-16 minutes at just above threshold, i.e. low VO2 max, and then a final tempo effort for about 18 minutes, all of that final one out of the saddle. Anyway, time to carb up and enjoy a little bit of the sunshine and maybe a bit of vino with Jane. What a day. Never a problem for me. Now, for those of you who love their Cliff bars, Cliff is a family-owned business, and they also own a big old farm and a couple of vineyards, and this is the fruit of their labour. A beautiful crisp wine. Cheers. Jane's gone. My little snacks there, they're all cheese. I'm not a lover of cheese. In fact, I really hate it. Quote of the day: it's nice, but it's not a Primitivo.
Well, that's my favourite.
A favourite Italian wine. Mine too, actually, as it goes. And only £10 a bottle.
It's still nice.
And I think the perfect drink for me, the Climber. Check it out, look at that. 75% Cabernet Sauvignon. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
Now, the Climber may not have had a bike, but the spirit is what counts here. Cheers.
That's nice.
That's a big, big wine. What do you think?
It's nice. I like it.
Better than a Primitivo?
It's different than a Primitivo.
Different. There you go. Insight, analysis, incisive feedback on your wines. Courtesy of Jane from A Bike Racing Without Mercy. Post-ride nutrition, American diner style, well, sort of. A high tuna burger. Jane's got a traditional one there, and sweet potato fries. The week in Napa was the culmination of my second block of training post-crash, and all of the training was undertaken in the low traffic sanctuary of the Atlas Peak Road climb, which measures in at 13.2 kilometers, average gradient 4.5%. But for training purposes, the first 4.1 kilometers averages 6.8% with inconsistent ramps throughout the entire climb. Perfect for training. Whilst we're taking in the climb, I thought it was a good opportunity to take you through how I rebuilt my threshold post the crash. Not all the way back, mind, but to north of 4 watts a kilogram. And as you've previously seen, block 1 of the training was intuitive, alternating training sessions between increasing big blocks of power rising from 180 watts to 200 watts to find my LT1, and then each week a couple of harder 20-minute sessions or 2 times 15 to build the threshold, culminating in a 45-kilometre, 2,300 metre ascent from the coast of a DJ to the top of Mount Teide in Tenerife in early August. And by late August, work was already dialing up the intensity into the seasonal peak, which alongside a bunch of travel allowed less time for the endurance training, in turn providing a natural opportunity to add in a bit more intensity and a lot more recovery. Recovery, aka work, travel and late nights. Now after T-Day, I did a lab test with Adam Isherwood at Oxford University, which amongst other things confirmed that my FTP or anaerobic threshold was in the 240 watt range, 3.9 watts a kilogram, also verified with one of Zwift's short tests. And as Adam, my cycling Yoda, has told us, our anaerobic threshold or FTP, if correctly calculated, is a power that we should be able to sustain with an elevated but reasonably stable breathing and heart rate for about 30 to 45 minutes. Note, the more highly trained and elite an individual is, the closer to the mythical hour of power they can edge at this intensity. So for the second block of training, my objective was simple: build my anaerobic threshold or FTP, but also the time I can deploy it for. And please note that all training inside was without the back brace now, in order to make the breathing easier and to reduce the body temperature and heart rate. Interjecting back into the climb as I vector in here towards the end of the Lower Atlas Peak Road segment, Churchill would describe this as the end of the beginning, but for sure a perfect segment for training, mixing up the cadence plus in and out the saddle work in order to fire up the afterburners on the steeper bits. And here on the more forgiving inclines, it's time to fettle down the power, and that is fettle down, not lay off. Here's the end of the lower segment, and it's just before one of 2 irritating small downward sections to spoil the average power. I mean, surely any half-decent road engineer would think about our Strava data, surely. And who doesn't love to punch over a steep brow? It's one of cycling's, and therefore life's, undisputed pleasures. And now, back to the threshold training block. And in the spirit of simplicity, I decided to build on the 2 times 15 minutes, because if it's good enough for Tadej Pogačar, then it's good enough for a middle-aged bloke with a broken vertebrae and a few demons to slay. And 2 times 15 minutes at 245 watts, back then 4 watts a kilogram, was soon supersized into 3 times 15 minutes at 250, 4.1 watts a kilogram. And for a bit of added spice and some fun, I mixed in 1 Zwift race per week of the threshold climbing flavour. My imagination knows literally no bounds. And behold, the second slightly longer, irritating, yet simultaneously, we are in America after all, exhilarating mini descent. And just before taking part in the Haute Route Davos, indoors on a watt bike Atom, I decided to test my anaerobic threshold proper on good old Alpe de Zwift with a live stream to see if 4 watts a kilogram was on the cards. And sure enough, it was. 48 minutes at 255 on the watt bike Atom Generation 2, and the dual recording showed 263 on the Favero Asiomas. The live stream encouragement provided gains on gains, plus it was a diamond legs and lungs day, without the back brace I should add.
And after the hell of the 2 descents, the exquisite pleasure of the final steep third.
And as you've seen, the Hort route was an LT1 fest, save for the individual time trial on the Fluella Pass. But the high altitude on the pass, 1,300 to 2,300 metres, and the lack of oxygen, combined with wearing a back brace, caused for more than a little bit of disappointment for me in my performance. It was just 218 watts over 15 minutes and a VAM of just 930 metres an hour. So moving on to California at lower altitude, but still wearing a back brace outside, I wanted to see if the indoor fitness translated to real life. And as you've seen, the Palm Springs climb on the Tramway Road in a 30-degree heat indicated all was promising. A 5-kilometre climb, average gradient 9.1% and 252 watt average. But I ran out of road, so couldn't see if I could extend that beyond the 25 minutes. So for me, Atlas Peak was where it was going to be all out for me for this final block. In the main, using the lower slope for 2 or 3 16 to 17 minute efforts at threshold in the initial part of the holiday, plus adding in a few full distance climbs for pleasure.
And then, after a few days, I undertook a full gas exoskeleton assault on the main climb itself, which you see here now. It took me 42.5 minutes, average power was 246 watts, average speed 18.6 kmh, and I was just shy of 900 meters an hour VAM. And I decided to garnish that for the repeatable threshold power gains with a max effort on the lower slope, coming in at 263 watts for just shy of 16 minutes. So starting to look promising.
And after some more tempo and threshold efforts a day or so later on the lower slope, it was time for Jane to release me, sans exoskeleton, into the wild to storm this now familiar piece of geology on the Specialized. So minus the back brace, my time was 40 minutes. Somewhat slower than the pros, as you can see here, but decent. Decent for me, for sure. 19.7 kilometers an hour, 940 VAM, plus 256 watts average, 264 normalized, 4.1 watts a kilogram. And I also managed the desired positive split. On the lower slope, it took me 15 minutes, averaging 273 watts, and then after the easier central bit, I went max effort for the final section of the climb. Afterwards, I went in search of the valuable, repeatable power gains and garnished the ascent with a 1 times 15 minutes on the lower slope, averaging 265 watts or so. And for dessert, I went in search of my 3-minute max effort, just to see where my VO2 max lay, in order to set a foundation for training block number 3, the rebuild of the elusive, oh so hard to acquire, yet stupefyingly easy to lose, Mr. VO2 max. But that's for the next video. And as always, now time for the post-ride nutrition. Post-ride nutrition with some style, I hope you'll agree. Yes, there have been starters and there have been main courses, none of that matters. Now the main event. Jane, she's got some kind of pie thing with tangerine, but look at this. Look at that. Lemon meringue pie with a biscuit base. Does it get any better? Does it? I don't think it does. It really doesn't. Look at that. Taste test. Oh my word. Divine. Absolutely divine. Is yours good? Post-ride nutrition with style. And a fire. Who doesn't like a fire by the dinner table? And it is my duty to confirm it was indeed inhaled.